So, a lot of players tend to overlook the importance of countering enemy heroes. Although it's understandable if you really don't know which heroes counter the enemy's picks. Or maybe you just don't know how to use the heroes that counter them. And you can really only do this if you're the last pick, since that's when you can see the enemy lineup. It's actually a huge advantage as a solo player to be last pick. Not only because you can see the enemy team and easily choose the best hero to use, but also because you can see your teammates' heroes too. I mean, you'll be able to adjust accordingly based on what you think fits best with your teammates' heroes, because you really can't expect your random teammates to be the ones adjusting for the team, even if they're the last pick. Only a few players actually know how to do that. Most players don't really care. Some will even pick roam Estes while there's already a Fanny on their team, and vice versa. And like I said, you'll also know if they're trolling or if they're not using their main heroes, or if your team composition is just bad overall. You can already tell whether your chances of winning are high or low just by looking at your teammates' picks. Of course, if your lineup is bad and your teammates aren't even using their main heroes, then don't bother using your main hero either. If you see your teammate pick one of the 3 trash marksmen, why would you even use your main hero and try your best to carry when your trash teammate is also trying their best to drag the team down? You'll just end up getting stressed, not only worrying about your stars, but also your main hero's win rate and MMR. But anyway, let's just assume that your teammates are good, and you're the last pick, so you have the privilege to counter the enemy heroes. X.Borg is one of those heroes who can counter a lot of others simply because of his true damage. Tanky heroes really struggle against him, not only because their durability becomes almost useless, but also because they have a hard time bursting him down. Their damage usually isn't enough to do that, and on top of that, X.Borg's spell vamp and passive allow him to restore his Faraga armor HP back to full quite easily. Specifically, X.Borg can counter CC and Baxia in this game, which is why I decided to use him. X.Borg counters CC because her first skill deals HP-based damage. The higher the target's HP, the higher her damage. But X.Borg actually has one of the lowest base HPs among all heroes, since most of what you see on his HP bar comes from his Faraga armor. You can only start damaging his actual HP once that armor is gone, and that HP pool is really small. That's why HP-based damage heroes or items don't deal much damage to X.Borg. Even if you build HP items, only a small portion of that goes to his real HP. The rest goes to his Faraga armor. But that's not the only reason why X.Borg counters CC. Their playstyles and ranges are actually quite similar, especially their first skills. And since CC usually uses Vengeance, she doesn't have an escape tool when X.Borg uses his ultimate. She'll have a hard time getting away, especially if her second skill is on cooldown. That's the perfect timing for X.Borg to use his ultimate, right after CC uses her second skill. Also, Vengeance doesn't reduce X.Borg's true damage, which makes it almost useless against him. And because X.Borg has passive healing and spell vamp, CC can't burst him down easily. Her damage against him is just too low. In most cases, CC is the one who'll feel the damage when they go head-to-head. Of course, this all assumes that both players have equal skill levels, because if the X.Borg player doesn't know what they're doing, then yeah, they'll still lose. X.Borg is also a great counter to Baxia. Some of you might think that Baxia also counters X.Borg because of his life bane effect, but for me, that's actually not the case. Baxia is at a disadvantage here. His damage reduction per hit is useless against X.Borg since X.Borg deals true damage. On top of that, Baxia's mobility becomes slow when his first skill is on cooldown, which means there's almost no escape from X.Borg once he gets close. Baxia also can't burst X.Borg down, because his damage just isn't enough to do so. That's why if you see Baxia and CC on the enemy team, always remember X.Borg. You can pick him if you want an easier time countering those heroes. And since Baxia and CC are both top-tier meta heroes right now, it's very important to counter them properly and not give them an easy game. In the next game, I used Akai, mainly to counter Alucard and Dairoth. He can also counter Tigreal, but in this match, I picked my hero before Tigreal, which turned out to be a big mistake for him, since he probably didn't know that Akai is actually one of Tigreal's hardest counters. One important thing you should always remember is, don't blindly counter just one enemy hero. You have to look at the overall lineup of the enemy team. It's good if your hero can counter at least 2 or 3 of them, But if you only counter one while the rest are counters to you, you'll have a hard time winning. Think about it. If you already see the enemy lineup and you know that most of them counter your hero, don't insist on picking that hero just because it can counter a single enemy. That's pointless. The whole point of counterpicking is to gain an advantage, not to make things harder for yourself, even when you already see the enemy heroes. Just like what happened with Tigreal in this game, he still picked Tigreal knowing that there was already an Akai on our team. Also, make sure that the hero you're using as a counter isn't trash. I mean, the hero should still be strong and capable of keeping up with meta heroes, just like Akai and X.Borg. They might not be top-tier meta right now, but they can definitely hold their own against meta heroes. Don't pick a trash hero like Hanabi just to counter a meta hero. That's not countering, that's just making the game harder for yourself. Akai is a great counter against certain assassins and short-range heroes that rely heavily on basic attacks or need to get close to their targets, just like Alucard and Dairoth, as I mentioned earlier. We got outplayed by Kimmy here, but that's fine since it gave our carry some space to farm. The combo of Arlott and Akai is really strong, which is why I kept visiting the EXP lane early in the game. It's usually easier to kill the EXP laner than the gold laner in the early game, because EXP laners tend to play aggressively, most of them are short-ranged, and they generally deal more damage early on. As long as your gold laner isn't getting bullied by 4 enemies, it's fine, especially since in this match, we managed to shut down the enemy jungler early. However, from mid to late game, our Arlott kept playing solo, and didn't want to team up with me to maximize his passive. He preferred to play alone, but he kept getting outplayed by his lane opponent every time. In this game, Kimmy was the hardest one to catch, and it's a good thing I managed to get her here because she got overconfident, thinking I couldn't reach her. She wasn't even using Purify as her battle spell in this match, and she probably didn't expect that kind of combo from Akai. My first skill actually didn't reach her, but I had Petrify, so that's how I was able to catch her. Our marksman suddenly disappeared here, so I ended up dying before we could kill Dairoth. I was surprised. Turns out she were already taking the Lord. Carrie's positioning was perfect here. Perfect for the enemies to kill her. We managed to kill Kimmy again here. If you notice, I used my first skill and Petrify at the same time, but actually, my Petrify was wasted since the CC from my first skill was already enough. I only used both together just in case my first skill didn't reach Kimmy, but if you're sure it will hit, don't use them at the same time. The enemy managed to take the Lord there despite my beautiful attempt to steal it, but the Lord was quickly bursted down since we had carry on our team. By the way, this is the emblem build I used for Akai in this game. And this one here is the emblem setup I used for X.Borg earlier. This is my item build for Akai in this game. Builds always depend on the situation, but my first core item was fleeting time after rapid boots, so that his ultimate's cooldown becomes really short. And I highly suggest it too, since Akai's ultimate has a long cooldown, and it's his most important skill. My Athena's shield was actually my last build. I built Dreadnought armor after fleeting time, then Radiant armor, Dominance ice, and Blade armor. After that, I replaced the Dreadnought armor.